with this Cassie thing, I didn't know her, but I knew somebody like her, and that was Kim Porter. I didn't know Cassie, but I knew somebody who was going through the same thing she was going through, and that was Kim.
Many years ago, I posted some information that was, basically trying to save my life.
Y'all, forget loyalty. Albie sure just detonated a truth bomb on his own son Quincy, and it's shaking the entire Diddy camp to the core. We're talking betrayal, bold lies to the feds, and a cover-up so messy it's pitting father against son in the fight for justice. While the world watches Diddy's empire crumble under federal investigation, Quincy may have just made the fatal mistake of standing between Albie sure and the truth about Kim Porter. And now, Daddy is done playing nice. Something unthinkable just happened, and it's shaking the very foundation of one of hip-hop's most complicated family trees. Legendary R&B singer Albie sure has just come out swinging against his own son. That's right, Quincy Brown, the photogenic actor and musician known to many as Diddy's stepson, is now the target of a public call-out by the man who gave him life. And this isn't subtle. In a fiery social media post, Albie sure laid it all bare. Not only did he express heartbreak, but he accused Quincy of selective memory, turning a blind eye, and, perhaps most damning of all, allegiance to a man now being investigated in multiple federal cases, Sean Diddy Combs. Why now? Why, after years of silence, has Albie sure decided to break ranks and air this devastating family fracture in front of the world? And what does Diddy have to do with a father disowning his own son? We're diving deep because what you're about to hear isn't just a family feud. It's a tragedy. It's a betrayal. And it may be the final chapter in a decades-long battle between a father desperately trying to reclaim his son and an empire built on silence, secrets, and control. Let's rewind because this story didn't start with a tweet. It started with a love triangle, a tragic death, and a child caught between two powerful men. Quincy Brown was born in 1991, the son of Albie sure and Kim Porter, a stunning model and rising star in the music world. Albie sure was one of the most recognizable R&B voices of the late 80s and early 90s, and his relationship with Kim was filled with promise. But like many showbiz romances, it ended, and Kim moved on, eventually finding love with none other than Sean Diddy Combs. Diddy didn't just become Kim's partner. He took Quincy in, raised him, gave him his last name in spirit, if not in blood. And from the outside looking in, it was a fairy tale. The bad boy mogul playing stepfather to a beautiful blended family. But I'll be sure, he was watching from the sidelines. For years, I'll try to maintain a connection with Quincy. He wrote letters, made phone calls, even wrote songs about him, publicly and privately. Albie sure has said he was never absent by choice, that he wanted to be there, that he was blocked by Kim, by the industry, and by Diddy's towering shadow. In 2009, Albie sure made a heart-wrenching statement on social media. "The door is open, son." A simple message, but one heavy with pain. It was a plea to a child who had, in AL's view, turned away from him completely. And Quincy? Well, Quincy never really looked back. In interviews, Quincy has always been respectful, but guarded. He's praised Diddy, calling him his dad and his hero. He's thanked him for the lifestyle, the mentorship, the platform. And while that loyalty makes sense, Diddy was the one who raised him. It's the complete absence of Albie sure in Quincy's narrative that has left fans puzzled and his biological father devastated. But things took an even darker turn after Kim Porter's sudden death in 2018. A death that Albie sure has publicly questioned, suggesting foul play, secrecy, and cover-ups that he believes Diddy may be involved in. Still, Quincy stayed silent. Even as whispers about Diddy's alleged misconduct grew louder. Even as Cassie's lawsuit opened the floodgates. Even as raids, federal investigations, and lawsuits piled up, Quincy has remained loyal. Loyal to Diddy. Silent about Al. And that silence? It's now exploded into a storm. In his most recent message, Albie sure didn't just express grief. He accused Quincy of knowing the truth and choosing to look away. He hinted that Quincy was complicit in his own estrangement, that he's become a mouthpiece for the man who may have orchestrated the alienation of an entire bloodline. Loyalty to evil is still evil, Al wrote, and silence protects the guilty. It's not just a personal call-out, it's a reckoning. For years, Al sure bit his tongue. For years, he tried to reconnect. For years, he waited for his son to ask questions, to reach back, to wonder about his real father. But the moment never came. Now, with Diddy under fire from every direction, accusations of abuse, trafficking, manipulation, Al sees Quincy's silence not as neutrality, but betrayal. And the timing? Couldn't be more loaded, because insiders say Quincy may be in talks to defend Diddy publicly. A possible podcast appearance. A potential, I stand with my father statement. If that happens, it could be the final nail in the coffin between Quincy and Al. Sure, a public declaration that Diddy, not Al, is his father in all ways that matter. And for Al, sure, that would be the ultimate erasure. So where does this story go from here? Is Quincy truly blind to what's happening? Or is he choosing convenience over truth? Is Diddy's grip on his sons so strong that they'd abandon their own blood to protect his legacy? And most importantly, what happens when the truth finally catches up with all of them? Because if there's one thing we've learned in 2025, it's that Diddy's empire is crumbling. And when the walls fall, everyone who stood beside him may fall too. Especially the ones who called him dad. Everything changed in November 2023. That's when Cassie Ventura did what no one thought she ever would. She filed a bombshell lawsuit against Sean Diddy Combs, accusing him of rape, trafficking, surveillance, and years of brutal control. Within 24 hours, the case was settled, but the damage was done. The silence was broken, and behind the scenes, the feds started circling. By January 2024, whispers turned into search warrants. Private jets were being tracked. Secret properties in Miami, Los Angeles, and New York were raided. And while the headlines focused on the music mogul himself, what didn't make the front page was the pressure being felt by everyone in Diddy's inner circle, especially the people he called family. That's where Quincy Brown steps in. To the outside world, Quincy looked like he was staying above the chaos, attending red carpet events, posting carefully curated Instagram content, and remaining eerily silent about the accusations circling his adoptive father. But behind the scenes, sources say the Department of Justice was already asking serious questions. Was Quincy simply Diddy's innocent stepson, or was he a key part of maintaining the illusion? According to one insider with alleged knowledge of the federal probe, Quincy was more than just quiet. He was actively involved in shaping a false narrative, one meant to shield Diddy from public scrutiny and discredit those speaking out. And the most explosive claim? That Quincy lied to federal investigators when they first made contact in early 2024. The allegation is that when asked about parties, security protocols, and who had access to Diddy's homes, Quincy downplayed everything. He claimed he didn't know, wasn't there, or never saw anything suspicious. But multiple sources, including former staff and a bodyguard currently cooperating with prosecutors, say Quincy's statements don't line up with what he actually witnessed. There are reports that Quincy attended parties that Cassie later described in her lawsuit, gatherings that included A-list celebrities, hired dancers, NDAs at the door, and surveillance everywhere. Some sources say Quincy helped organize certain events, calling talent and arranging transportation. If true, that places him not as a passive observer, but as an accessory to the machine. And it doesn't stop there. What's even more troubling are claims that Quincy wasn't just protecting Diddy on his own. He allegedly became the enforcer within the family. That's right. Quincy is now being accused of pressuring his younger siblings to stay silent, even when they were approached by investigators or knew disturbing details about what happened behind closed doors. One unnamed source close to the family alleges that in early March 2024, Quincy held a private meeting with Christian King Combs, Justin Combs, and Chance, the teenage daughter Diddy shared with Sarah Chapman. The alleged purpose? To remind them that family comes first and we ride for dad, no matter what. Another insider claims that Quincy personally discouraged King Combs from speaking to the press or posting anything that could look like disloyalty. And when one of the siblings started asking questions, reportedly after reading a blog post comparing Cassie's lawsuit to rumors about Kim Porter's mysterious death, Quincy allegedly shut it down. He told them not to believe the hype, the source said. He said it's just people trying to tear their family apart, that they didn't understand how much was at stake. But what was at stake? According to legal experts, millions. Possibly inheritances, brand deals, future projects, and even housing arrangements that kept many of the Combs kids living comfortably in their father's orbit. And here's where it gets dark. A whistleblower working in logistics for one of Diddy's companies claims that Quincy was listed on internal documents as a media compliance handler, a vague title, but one that, according to them, meant keep things clean and keep people quiet. If these allegations hold any weight, Quincy wasn't just a bystander. He may have been actively managing the optics of Diddy's empire while it was being dismantled from the inside. Even more chilling is the suggestion that Quincy used his emotional leverage, his status as the older brother, the calm and charismatic one, to ensure the rest of the family didn't crack. That he made it seem like protecting Diddy was synonymous with protecting each other. But the truth is, that strategy may be falling apart. By April 2025, cracks in the family front were starting to show. Justin Combs was stopped for a DUI and, according to gossip, started venting to friends that Dad's empire is cursed. King Combs, once poised to be the next generation superstar, has gone completely quiet. And now, with more raids, more victims stepping forward and federal agents circling closer to those in Diddy's inner ring, questions are being raised about who's really protecting who. And Quincy? Still silent, still posting, still performing the role of loyal son. But as the feds close in, that silence is looking less like calm and more like complicity. So here's the million-dollar question. If Quincy did lie to protect Diddy, will he be charged? Legal analysts say it's possible. If prosecutors can prove Quincy knowingly misled investigators or influenced witness testimony, especially that of his own siblings, he could face obstruction or conspiracy charges. Maybe not prison time, but certainly a legal nightmare and a PR meltdown. And what about those siblings? If the truth comes out, will they stay quiet, or will one of them flip to save themselves? Because loyalty is one thing, but federal time is another. And the longer Quincy clings to Diddy's sinking ship, the more likely it is that when it finally goes down, he goes down with it. When Quincy Brown was called in for questioning earlier this year, most assumed he'd play it safe, deflect, protect his family, and stay out of the firestorm closing in on Sean Diddy Combs. But what actually came out of that private sit-down with federal investigators allegedly stunned the room. According to leaks from someone familiar with the case, Quincy didn't just protect Diddy. He gave investigators a full-blown defense strategy, and it centered around one shocking claim. That Kim Porter, his own mother, enjoyed the violence. That's right. Instead of acknowledging years of whispered abuse, bruises seen by staff, and Kim's growing fear before her sudden death in 2018, Quincy reportedly chalked it all up to consensual BDSM. He allegedly told investigators that Kim and Diddy had a complex and passionate relationship, and that any marks on her body were part of their private sexual dynamic. He even used those three infamous letters, BDSM, as a shield. But here's where it gets even more disturbing. According to one source, Quincy said, quote, "My mom was intense. She wasn't a victim. People just didn't understand her and Puff's relationship. It wasn't abuse, it was private. That wasn't just damage control. That was a direct effort to reframe years of public concern, staff testimony, and even medical records as kink." And he didn't stop there. Allegedly, Quincy went even further, suggesting that Kim's complaints to friends or family about bruises or emotional distress were overblown or worse, retaliatory. He reportedly said, quote, "Sometimes she was just mad at him. It didn't mean she was scared of him." Now, pause for a second. That's not just a son defending his stepfather. That's a son throwing his own mother under the bus to save the man accused of abusing her. And not just abusing her emotionally, but physically, sexually, and psychologically. Let that sink in. Quincy accused Kim Porter of enjoying the abuse. And it's not just disturbing, it's strategic. Legal experts say this kind of framing is common when powerful men are under fire. Paint the victim as kinky, emotional, unstable, anything but abused, especially when the victim can no longer speak for herself. Because Kim Porter is dead. She can't confirm or deny. She can't testify. She can't correct the record. And for Diddy's defense, and apparently for Quincy, that makes her the perfect scapegoat. But the problem? There are living witnesses, and they remember everything. You can spin a narrative all you want. But when people who were there, the housekeepers, the assistants, the fellow artists start talking, the truth bubbles up fast. Let's talk about Jean Deal. If you don't know her name, you should. Jean was one of Diddy's longtime security staffers, and in multiple interviews, years before Cassie's lawsuit or the federal raids, she publicly described the horrific treatment she witnessed between Diddy and Kim. Jean said on record that Kim had visible bruises, that she frequently saw Kim crying, and that she was scared, especially in the last year of her life. Jean even claimed that Kim once whispered to her, "I'm leaving him. I just have to figure out how to do it without him snapping." That doesn't sound like BDSM. That sounds like a woman planning an escape. And then there's Dawn Richard. Yes, that Dawn Richard from Donnie Kane. She spent years in Diddy's orbit and knew the dark energy surrounding him. In a resurfaced clip, Dawn describes moments when Kim would show up to the studio with sunglasses on indoors or with a stiff demeanor and short answers. One time, Kim allegedly confided in Dawn that she felt like a prisoner in her own home. That's not a consensual dynamic. That's textbook abuse. And even more damning, these weren't whispers. These were injuries seen in public. Photos of Kim attending events with bandaged wrists, discoloration on her arms, and once, according to a leaked industry email, a noticeable limp. Industry insiders whispered, but no one challenged Diddy. He was too powerful. And Kim? She was trying to protect her kids. But now, the same kids she tried to protect, especially Quincy, are defending the man she allegedly feared the most. And that raises a painful question. Is Quincy a victim of manipulation, or is he an enabler? Because here's the contradiction. Jean Deal and Dawn Richard, both women who stood beside Kim, described terror, injury, and isolation. Quincy calls it misunderstood intimacy. Jean says Kim wanted out. Quincy says she was just intense. So who do we believe? The woman who risked her job to tell the truth. The artist who watched it happen from across the room. Or the son who lived in luxury under Diddy's roof and now seems desperate to hold the empire together, even if it means tarnishing his own mother's name. One thing is certain. The more Quincy talks, the more obvious it becomes that his version of events isn't just defensive, it's dangerous. Because reframing abuse as BDSM isn't just wrong. It's a tactic abusers have used for decades to avoid accountability. And if Quincy is willing to sell that narrative to the feds, then maybe it's not loyalty keeping him quiet anymore. Maybe it's fear of what happens when the truth finally explodes. At first, I'll be sure kept it quiet, reserved, respectful. A grieving man behind dark shades at a funeral that still doesn't sit right with him. But now, he's done being silent. Because this isn't just about justice. This is about Kim Porter. To the world, she was Diddy's ex. A model. A muse. A mother of 3. But to Al B. Sure, she was much more. In his own words, Kim wasn't my baby mama. She was my wife in every way that mattered. And when he says that, he means it. Back in a now-deleted Instagram post from 2020, Al B. Sure shocked fans by revealing that he and Kim allegedly had a private, spiritual marriage ceremony before she ever got entangled with Diddy. He claimed they were soul-bound, that their connection was deeper than contracts, deeper than fame, and that no one, not even Puff Daddy himself, could ever replace what they had. So when Kim Porter died suddenly in 2018 of lobar pneumonia, an explanation Al B. Sure never believed, his world shattered. He since stated multiple times that he believes foul play was involved and that Kim didn't just die, she was silenced. And now, as federal raids storm Diddy's homes, as sex trafficking lawsuits mount, as former bodyguards and artists come forward with gut-wrenching allegations, Albee sure sees his worst fears confirmed. But what broke him? Not the headlines. Not even the resurfaced rumors about Diddy's alleged abuse. It was Quincy, the son he raised, the son he named, the son he once begged, "The door is open, son. I'm here." And now, that son is standing shoulder to shoulder with the very man who may have hurt Kim the most. To Albee, sure, it's betrayal in the highest form. Not just to him, but to Kim. Because what father can sit back and watch his child become the mouthpiece for his mother's possible abuser? Sources close to Al say he's been fuming for months. That he's gone full scorched earth behind the scenes. That he's ready to testify, talk, and take the stand if it means vindicating Kim Porter's name. He doesn't want clout. He doesn't want revenge. He wants truth. And now, with his son allegedly helping Diddy's legal team control the public narrative, Albee sure has hit his breaking point. It was the court appearance that left fans stunned. In March 2025, as Diddy arrived at a federal courthouse to respond to explosive trafficking allegations, who was spotted behind him? Quincy Brown, dressed sharp, stone-faced, and loyal. No post, no press release, just presence. And that presence spoke volumes. Because while Albee sure grieves, cries out, and demands accountability, Quincy continues to orbit the Diddy empire like it's 2011, when money flowed, parties raged, and the bad boy mystique still held weight. But the fans? They see right through it. Social media lit up with questions like, why is Quincy still riding for Diddy when his own mother ended up dead? Does Quincy think he's untouchable just because he was raised rich? Why does he never speak up for Kim, but always finds a way to defend Puff? And the criticism doesn't stop there. According to insider whispers, Quincy allegedly helped coordinate the public statement made by Diddy's children in defense of their father, just days after Cassie's lawsuit dropped. The statement, which framed Diddy as a loving dad and claimed the accusations were unfounded, sparked immediate backlash. Even more controversial, Quincy wasn't just a bystander. He was reportedly the bridge between legal teams and the younger siblings. Insiders claim he urged the kids to stay united, protect the family brand, and resist media pressure. Fans called it brainwashing. Others called it survival. But Albee sure? He called it disgraceful. Now, every time Quincy posts a filtered photo, appears at an event, or shares vague inspirational quotes, the comments are flooded with one word. Why? Why is he protecting a man under investigation by the federal government? Why is he silent about the bruises his mother allegedly had? Why is he so loyal to the man who may have covered up her death? Some fans speculate that Quincy is caught in too deep, that he knows where the skeletons are buried, and that he's playing the long game to protect himself. Others say he's trauma-bonded, raised in Diddy's home, emotionally conditioned to serve the brand above all else. But one thing everyone agrees on? The Quincy they see now is not the Quincy Kim raised. And if this house of cards falls, if the lawsuits, the witnesses, and the whistleblowers finally crack Diddy's empire, Quincy may not just be remembered as a son torn between two fathers. He may be remembered as the one who chose power over truth. And the internet never forgets. Let's ask the uncomfortable question. Is Quincy Brown just a victim of Diddy's manipulation? Or is he something worse? That's what fans are debating as the timeline of events grows more suspicious and more damning. We've watched Quincy move like a loyal soldier, defending Diddy, showing up in court, allegedly coaching the other kids through their public statement. And now, sources claim he's even been briefed by legal counsel on how to handle subpoenas if he's called to testify. And the question everyone's asking is, why now? Why? After Cassie broke the silence, after federal raids, after the sex trafficking allegations, after the former bodyguards flipped, after the missing women, after all of it, is Quincy suddenly so visible? It's not loyalty anymore. It's strategy. And fans are starting to believe Quincy isn't confused. He's calculated. The timing is too neat. The statement's too rehearsed. The silence around Kim Porter's suspicious death too painful. And now, the rumor mill is spinning with claims that Quincy is working overtime behind the scenes to control the Porter kids' narrative, keeping them from speaking out. Some believe he's been manipulated, emotionally groomed by Diddy from a young age, raised in his mansion, fed a steady diet of luxury and control. Others think Quincy is drunk on the image, desperate to preserve the brand that made him famous in the first place. But there's a darker theory gaining traction. Quincy knows what Diddy did. He knows what happened to Kim, and he's choosing to stand with him anyway. Whether out of fear, protection, or delusion, his refusal to acknowledge the mountain of evidence is no longer just disappointing. It's alarming. And fans aren't holding back. One viral tweet put it simply: if you choose silence while women are hurt, that's not neutrality. That's complicity. But while Quincy tightens his grip on the Diddy legacy, I'll be sure is fighting a different war. And make no mistake, it's a war now. This isn't about tabloids anymore. This isn't petty family beef. This is life and death, legacy and justice. I'll be sure has made it clear he's not backing down. He wants answers. He wants exposure. And above all, he wants justice for Kim Porter, the woman he claims was his secret wife, his soulmate, and the real victim behind Diddy's billion-dollar empire. He's been posting cryptic messages, dropping throwback images, and connecting dots that no one else dares to. And insiders close to him say he's prepared to release audio, journals, and testimony that paints a much darker picture of Kim's final months. AL's new mission? Burn it all down. And in that mission, Quincy isn't just a bystander anymore. He's a potential target. Because if Quincy knew about the bruises, if Quincy knew about the fear, if Quincy helped cover up or minimize Kim's experience, then he's no longer just Diddy's adopted son. He's a potential accomplice. Legal experts have already begun speculating. If prosecutors pursue a RICO case against Diddy, they'll be looking for anyone who enabled, protected, or enforced the abuse. That includes bodyguards, staff, lawyers, and yes, family members who helped manage the narrative. If Quincy lied to investigators, if he pressured his siblings to lie, if he misrepresented Kim's abuse as BDSM, he could be subpoenaed. He could be charged. And I'll be sure he's not holding back anymore. He's done pretending. He believes Kim was murdered. He believes the empire is built on lies. And he believes that Quincy has chosen the wrong side of history. The court of law may take its time, but the court of public opinion, it's already speaking loud. One family, one mother gone too soon, one son standing by her alleged abuser, and one father willing to go to war to defend her name. The family war isn't coming. It's already here.